if you want to be good at something, what must you do? You practice, practice, and practice every day. If you want to be a good pianist, you practice every day. If you want to be a good footballer, you practice every day. If you want to be a good surgeon, you practice every day. Now, let me see a show of hands. How many of you want to be good leaders? Great. Now, how many of you practice being a leader every day? I know there is a significant problem with this because most of us, we don't get to be in a leadership role in our everyday life now, do we? So how can we practice leadership every day? Today, I'm going to tell you exactly how to practice leadership in our everyday lives and how to practice leadership without a pre-assigned leadership position. Let me introduce you to the leadership model that single-handedly changed my perspective on leadership and taught me how to practice leadership in my day-to-day life. It's called the Girl Guide and Girl Scout Leadership Model by the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. In 2019, I had the opportunity to undergo extensive training about this leadership model at the Juliet Law Leadership Seminar organized by the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. This leadership model is based on 6 leadership mindsets, starting with the collaborative mindset, the creative and critical thinking mindset, the responsible action mindset, the gender equality mindset, the worldly mindset, and number 6, we have the reflective mindset. Now, as the definition by the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts states, quote, each mindset is like a frame that you can use to look through and get different perspective to consciously influence your reactions, reflections, choices, and behaviors, end quote. The point is to practice having all 6 of these mindsets in your day-to-day life so that when the situation for leadership arises, it flows to you naturally. So it's all about making leadership a habit. Now let's try to understand all 6 of these mindsets. I'm going to tell you exactly what each mindset entails, emphasizing on one aspect of each mindset that we often forget about, when to use each mindset, and how to integrate it to your day-to-day life. Starting with number 1, the collaborative mindset. This is the window we use to look into our relationships. Having a collaborative mindset means you know how to work well with others. But something we often forget is collaboration is truly achieved when the entire team believes in a common goal and every team member believes in it and works towards it together. So let's take 2 scenarios. Say you have to work with leader A and leader B to organize 2 different parties. Leader A comes up to you and tells that they already decided it's going to be a costume party. They tell you exactly what to do and when to do it. Whereas leader B calls up a team meeting, asks you what you would like to do. And based on the discussion, everyone agrees on a theme that everybody's happy about. Then leader B asks what tasks that you would like to take up and what tasks you're usually good at. And based on that, then distributes the tasks. I want you to think about it. Which leader would you rather work with? Is it leader A or leader B? This mindset really reminds you to listen to all your team members, establish a common goal, utilize everyone's unique skills and ideas to achieve that common goal. So when do we use this mindset? Every time you work with someone else. You don't necessarily have to be the leader of the team. As a member, you can steer the conversation towards establishing a common goal. You can propose talking about strengths and weaknesses before task allocation. You can notice the unique skills and ideas of the people around you and personally encourage them to use those skills and ideas in collaborative tasks. Next, we have number 2, the creative and critical thinking mindset. This is the window you use to look at ideas and innovation. On the surface, it's about being creative with your ideas and being critical when making decisions. But something we often forget is when to change our minds along that process. Say you are starting a project for school or for work. You brainstorm a couple of ideas, choose the best one, and start working on it. Along the way, you realize that there's a much, much better way to do it. A fresh and objectively better idea. Now, the comfortable thing to do is forget about the new idea because you've put so much work onto your first. But the correct thing to do is re-evaluate your pros and cons now and adjust the work you did to fit your better idea. And sometimes this may even mean entirely abandoning your first effort. And changing your mind becomes increasingly difficult in a group setting, especially when you're in the majority, but the minority idea is making more sense. We're so used to just taking a vote to decide what to do in a group. But we forget that sometimes it's the majority who needs to be changing their minds. So when do we use this mindset? Every single time we make a decision. And you also have to be open to changing that decision along that process. It can be a group setting. It can be an individual circumstance. Always be open to changing your mind along the way when the situation calls for it. Next, we have number 3, the responsible action mindset. This is the window we use to look at the impacts or the consequences of our actions. Most of the time, we're quite good at identifying the short-term consequences, what comes immediately after. But what we forget is to look at the long-term impacts or the long-term consequences. Say, for instance, you're organizing a climate change advocating event. You have a lot of good speeches, activities organized. But during the break, you serve food in plastic cups and plates. So, did you achieve your short-term goals? Of course you did. You did educate so many people on climate action. But what about your long-term goals? The event you organized itself became a contributor to climate change because of all of that unnecessary plastic waste. So, it's not just about what happens right after. It's about the bigger picture, the lasting impact you make through your actions. When do we use this mindset? Every time you do something and that is affecting, impacting the world around you. It can be little things like carrying your own cloth bag to get your groceries instead of polythene. It could be using a set of metal straws instead of plastic. It could be even something like offering your seat to an elderly person in the bus, inspiring the people around you. Next, we have number 4, the gender equality mindset. Now, this is the window you look through when empowering yourself as well as others. As the name suggests, it's about breaking gender barriers and being free of discrimination regarding gender. But I like to think of it as being free of discrimination of all sorts, be it gender, ethnicity, religion, or age. Most of the time, we're quite good at standing up for ourselves when discrimination is pointed towards ourselves. And we also are pretty good at defending our own kind. As men, we support fellow men when they're facing discrimination. As women, we support fellow women when they feel discriminated. But it's very rare to see people standing up against discrimination when it's pointed at the opposite demographic. As a man, would you stand up against discrimination if it's pointed towards a woman? As a woman, would you stand up against discrimination if it's pointed at a man? So it's important to remember, it's not just about standing up for your own gender or demographic. It's also about acknowledging everyone else, recognizing everyone else, and standing up against discrimination regardless of who it is pointed towards. So when do we use this mindset? Every single time you notice discrimination. It can be towards yourself, your friend, your competitor, or a random stranger in the bus. Never stay silent when you see discrimination. Next, we have the worldly mindset. This is the window of understanding, as I like to say it. This mindset helps us understand our own context as well as the context of people around us. Now, we all have our predefined notion on what's right, what's wrong, what's usual, and what's unusual. What we forget is, when you step into someone else's shoes, what's right, what's wrong, what's usual, and what's unusual may entirely change. So, this mindset is about asking the right questions to know somebody else's context. For example, when I first came to Malaysia, I always suggested to have group meetings at around 6 to 7 p.m. Turns out most Malaysians have their dinner at that time. For me, a Sri Lankan, that's way too early for dinner because we have tea at around 5, so dinner is at least at 8 or 9. Now, it may sound like such an insignificant little detail, but even that mattered when making group decisions. So, when do we use this mindset? Every single time you are in a new context or an unfamiliar situation. Always ask the right questions without assuming what their circumstance is. Next, we have, finally, the reflective mindset. This is the window we use to look at ourselves. It's all about self-awareness. Unlike the other 5 mindsets, I don't have one aspect of this that we often forget about, because this entire mindset is forgotten about when it comes to leadership. As much as leadership is about your team, the tasks, the impact, it's also about yourself. If you don't know who you are, how can you lead someone else? So how can you improve self-awareness? One of the best ways is to reflect back on your past experiences to learn about yourself. Simply ask yourself, what did you do well so that you can keep doing it? What did you do wrong so you can improve the next time? Now, when do we use this mindset? All the time. I'm tempted to say that this is perhaps the most important out of all 6, because this mindset is what allows you to consciously practice all 5 others as well. So make it a habit to reflect back on your day's tasks. You don't necessarily have to write them down. Just before you go to bed, think about what you did well and what could have been done better. Now that you have an understanding about all 6 mindsets, let's just recap very quickly of all of the 6. We have the collaborative mindset to improve relationship. Number 2, we have the creative and critical thinking mindset for innovation and good decision making. Number 3, we have the responsible action mindset for positive impact. Number 4, we have the gender equality mindset to be free of discrimination. Number 5, we have the worldly mindset for better understanding. And finally, number 6 is the reflective mindset for self-awareness. Now you know exactly how to apply these mindsets in your day-to-day life. All you have to do is put it to practice. So, if you want to be a good leader, you must practice, practice, and practice every day. Thank you.